clearly we're not operating in a normal political environment because he's acting like a dictator and he's breaking the law. How do you oppose that? And what does that look like? And does that look like mass mobilization in the streets? Then to what end? I think it's really hard. And so I have empathy for everyone trying to figure it out. And that goes from like people organizing an economic boycott to more moderate Democrats being like, this is normal politics. Like, I don't know that either is right. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Max Fisher.
So Max, I hear you may now be getting into MMA.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a just iron neck training regime. Me and Zuckerberg, only iron neck.
What is iron neck?
So when Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan, they talked a lot about how, your neck is looking bigger. Do you do an iron neck?
I hate that. I hate that.
Do
you have a gold chain?
I'm going to get a gold chain,
Good.
like really full desperation, crisis of masculinity. I will never understand the appeal of getting punched in the face for fun. It does not make a lot of sense to me, but UFC is very important for understanding our politics today.
And we are running a dogfighting ring here in the studio.
For people who are not watching, there are two dogs just fully running circles around us.
We've got Austin's dog, Junie. We've got my parents' dog, Cooper, who I'm dog sitting this week.
It's a place of business.
It's wonderful.
This is a workplace that we are in. Nobody's taken a shit in the studio so far, so it's top half of recordings.
Well, let me tell you.
It's not over yet.
All right. On Pod Save America, we covered Trump's State of the Union, which used to technically be called an address to a joint session of Congress, since it's the first speech of a president's term. I'm renaming it like the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
If we're doing that, we're renaming Denali. I'm just calling it all State of the Union from now on.
It's the Gulf of State of the Union.
I'm so sick of hearing how every time it's the first speech. It's technically not the State of the Union. I'm done with it.
Who cares?
I'm done with it. Anyway, there were a couple of offline moments from the speech that we should talk about. Starting with a very strange moment where Trump seemingly compared himself to victims of deepfake pornography. Let's play the clip.
Elliston Berry, who became a victim of an illicit deepfake image produced by a peer. With Elliston's help, the Senate just passed the Take It Down Act, and this is so important. Thank you very much, John. John Thune, thank you. Stand up, John. And I'm going to use that bill for myself, too, if you don't mind. Because nobody gets treated worse than I do online. Nobody.
I mean...
wow. Trump's powers of self-delusion that everybody out there is watching porn of him, truly unmatched. Generational self-delusion.
I think in the moment, because he clearly has no idea what the bill does.
No, he
and we should say,
know it.
It's bipartisan legislation.
Sure.
Basically, it will take down intimate pictures that are either intimate content that is either AI generated or real, that is shared on but non-consensual, shared on social media sites, internet, up to 2 years in prison if it's an adult, I guess 3 years if it's a minor.
Overdue.
Yes, but I think Trump hears Take It Down Act, and he's like, is this something that when there's bad stuff about you on the internet, you can just take it down? Because that seems pretty cool.
I'm sure, yes, deepfake is going to be redefined as criticizing Donald Trump on social media. No, I will say, if porn deepfakes of Trump is a thing that exists, obviously we are going to want to cover it on the show. That's going to be relevant for us. So please let us know. Send us an email, tommy.vitor@crooked.com.
And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right.
Because you're not going to want to listen to that one. You're going to want to watch.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, there was
frame by frame.
There was that. Did you see that story last week that there was a deepfake video of Trump kissing Elon's feet? It was on the screen, like in the cafeteria at HUD, at the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yes, and it was a big scandal of the week on Blue Sky because somebody posted it and it got taken down because Blue Sky has a rule against non-consensual AI porn, and enforcing that rule for Donald Trump and Elon Musk was very upsetting to some people.
So some people wanted the toe kissing.
Because what could be a bigger act of resistance than posting on Blue Sky?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
It is also just everything is about. He identifies with any kind of victim.
That's right. It's really he's the ultimate.
He doesn't want to identify with some victims,
sure,
marginalized people, but someone he brought to the State of the Union who, you happen to be a victim too, just like me. I get treated horribly online.
I will say the HUD video was funny. It's good to pass this law, good to enforce it all cases. The HUD video was kind of funny.
What'd you make of the speech overall?
I mean, this is the speech that you give if your agenda is catastrophically unpopular. Like, we all know that Trump lies constantly. It's like breathing for him. There's nothing new about this. But in his first term, his lies were typically about making up some problem that didn't exist or exaggerating a problem that was real or mischaracterizing it to rail against it and to rile up his base on his behalf. You know, was lying about immigration or about religious minorities, protesters, whatever. And that can be tenable when you're really just tapping into people's dissatisfaction with the status quo and trying to channel that in a way that is useful for you. But it's a lot less tenable when people's dissatisfaction status quo is you. And when you are the status quo, and when the thing people are upset about is that you are dismantling both the constitutional order and the booming economy that you inherited and replacing it with corrupt handouts to your oligarch buddies.
I also thought that it's a speech you give when you give zero fucks about anything, and you're trying to just like dismantle democracy,
right?
And because we started talking about this on Pod Save America afterwards, but like because Dan mentioned something like, well, he wasn't really trying to get his legislative agenda passed through Congress, which is traditionally what a president might do before Congress. Right. So I'm like, he wants it passed through Congress, but like he's not trying to move public opinion in any traditional way.
Yeah.
And I do think, I sort of laughed, sort of wanted to pull my hair out. It was just like the most common reaction to the speech right afterwards was like, we got to fact check him. There were so many lies. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, no, he spread so many of the conspiracies that we have talked about here that have spread online now just come out of the president's mouth that have already been fact checked, already been debunked, and he's just doing it. And that did make me wonder. It's like, it's tedious, I think, to continue to fact check Trump. Of course, people who tune into the State of the Union, I don't know who watched all 99 minutes of it, but some of those conspiracies you'd hear for the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
And you'd be like, I don't know, it sounds like it could be real.
Right.
And that's what's tough about that.
Yeah. I do think that your point that he no longer seems to care about even organizing his allies in Congress or maybe even his own political base, I think is really important and is like, in some ways, is a good sign or is like promising because it means that if he's not trying to even energize his base, it's going to be much easier to organize an opposition to it. But in other ways, is really concerning because clearly he doesn't believe that he has to care about public opinion anymore, even among his own supporters, which is a little worrying about what he thinks, the way that he thinks democratic governance works right now under him.
It's like he said to Zelensky in that Oval meeting, which is, you don't have any cards, I have all the cards. I think that's what he thinks domestically as well.
I think that is absolutely what he believes. And eventually, hopefully, he will like hit that wall. But up until we get to that point or figure out what that wall is, maybe it's the midterms, maybe it's hopefully something sooner, the Supreme Court, it's scary because we're kind of, we're really mixing my metaphors. We're kind of Wile E. Coyote, like running off the cliff, seeing how far we can run before we fall.
Yikes.
Are you yikesing at my metaphor? Because I agree.
Honestly. No, just the cliff. No, I thought it was a perfectly good metaphor.
Okay, thank you.
So, of course, my social media bestie and our least favorite special government employee, Elon Musk, he made an appearance last night. He was in the balcony as a guest of the president, who lavished praise on Doge before repeating Elon's false claims about Social Security. Right. That we debunked right here on this pod a couple weeks ago about all the dead people that are supposedly getting money. They're not real. Nothing's real. Let's play a clip.
And I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. It just keeps getting paid, and nobody does, and it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. 1.3 million people from ages 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people, according to the Social Security databases, are age over 160 years old. We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby.
None of that's true.
None of that's true.
It's widely debunked, easily debunked.
I know.
Very transparently not true.
What'd you make of that moment?
I think it is important to remember that of the many things that Musk and Doge have done over these last few weeks, and I cannot believe it's only been a few weeks, is to essentially terminate Congress's congressional authority over spending. Like one of the most important powers that Congress has is to direct spending, which means that they are determining what the government doesn't do. And Musk has been basically deleting congressionally mandated spending programs, government functions, entire agencies. It's basically a coup. Like those powers of Congress now just reside in the executive, to the point that congressional Republicans, who are supposed to be a co-equal branch with Donald Trump, have been reduced to like court supplicants, begging him to reintroduce at least some of the programs that they are legally required to maintain. And who was fucking cheering Musk on Tuesday night? Who did you hear screaming in that clip? The same congressional Republicans who have been cooed out of their constitutional authority.
Yeah.
It's really like... It's first of all, it's totally spineless. Like it's really sad, I think, on some like these are grown-up adults who are cheering the end of their own constitutional authority, and it concerns me.
I mean, I think the reason they're cheering it is because the aims of Doge are aligned with their own.
You think
right?
so?
Like it's Republicans. They don't like government.
Right.
They haven't liked government for a while, especially this crew of Republicans.
Yeah.
And so, you cut a bunch of agencies, you cut a bunch of spending, you cancel a bunch of contracts. They're probably fine with it. But there's some of them who are like, the fact that it's their job. Right. I mean, that it should be their job.
Sure.
I feel like they've given up on that back in 2017, 2018.
That's true. But it's agencies that they voted for. It's programs that they vote. It's not like these are all like Democratic imposed agencies who Republicans lost the vote on. These are things that they wanted to do that have been removed. So I take your point that like in a broader way that like, yes, right-wing authoritarianism and like cutting government spending to the point that federal government no longer works, absolutely. But a lot of the way that they are doing it is upending things that they put a lot of energy into creating. And they've got to know that in their own heads.
More important to keep Trump happy.
That's what it is. Yeah.
It is. A couple of the Democrats had Musk steal signs.
I saw that.
Up there. Do you think that worked?
I don't know. I think you honestly you have a better sense than I do for like what acts of resistance work and don't work. As we've discussed, like they don't have a lot of power right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can talk in a bit about like overall opposition resistance to Musk, because I think there's some interesting to Trump, because I think there's some interesting threads to pull there.
Yes.
On just the Musk stuff, I do still like them targeting their criticism towards Elon Musk.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
that's
he
smart.
is still a worthy target.
Right.
Because as we've seen from polling, he is much less popular than Donald Trump and getting less popular by the day.
Right.
And now, I mean, it was very funny that we heard Trump say, Elon's in charge of Doge, when in court the government has argued that Elon is not in charge of Doge.
Donald Trump loves to say things that directly undermine his own administration's legal strategy. He loves to do it.
Yes, for sure. Offline is brought to you by Quince. Elevating your style used to mean breaking the bank, but with Quince, you can get high-end, versatile pieces at prices you can actually afford. Now you can upgrade your style by snagging killer luxury essentials that sync with your vibe and wallet. Quince has all the must-haves like Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50, iconic 100% leather jackets, and comfortable pants for every occasion. The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. I just bought some T-shirts.
You did?
From Quince. It's getting nicer out here in LA.
It is.
It's starting to get warmer. It's going to be T-shirt weather.
I didn't need my fleece for my morning dog walk.
Nope. So I needed some new T-shirts. I looked at Quince. They got some great T-shirts there. They got some great Henleys. Been known to wear Henley once in a while.
Guy loves a fucking Henley.
Yeah, and very affordable. Indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/offline for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/offline to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/offline. Offline is brought to you by Armor Colostrum. Everyone's looking for ways to be healthier and stave off winter illnesses. Give your immunity and gut health their best chance with Armor Colostrum. Discover the transformational health benefits of Armor Colostrum that have earned tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. Probiotics and other supplements are touted as a gut health solution, but most products on the market are dead before they even reach your gut. Armor Colostrum naturally fortifies your entire gut wall system and optimizes your whole body microbiome, which helps guard against irritants that can trigger digestive issues and compromise your immune system. Research has shown that colostrum helps to enhance nutrient absorption. Armor Colostrum can help stabilize blood sugar levels, modulate hormones, and ignite your metabolism. This enhanced nutrient absorption has been a closely guarded secret of elite athletes like John Lovett. Let Armor Colostrum help you reach your goals by promoting lean muscle building and fueling cellular repair regeneration to fuel better performance and faster recovery. Colostrum bioactives have also been shown to reactivate hair follicle stem cells and activate collagen production, promoting hair growth and enhancing skin radiance.
Oh, I love to be radiant.
It's important. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmor.com/offline or enter offline to get 15% off your first order. That's TRYARMRA.com/offline.
All right. Well, we have to get into the real Elon news now. John, I know you know what I'm talking about. Emma, can we please hit it?
Favreau's smart, but he's not too bright. John got into a Twitter fight. Ba-da-ba-da-bow.
So this Twitter fight, for people who have not
Love
been
that
following,
sting more every time I
it's
hear
incredible.
it.
The bada bada boom. It's great. Is also one of the few remaining constitutional checks on our government. So I don't want to give you too much shit for it. Like, okay, I know you talked about this in PSA. We cannot not discuss the fact that while Trump may have purged the inspectors general from all of our federal agencies, we do have one IG left. It's at Doge. And it's our own progressive podcast host, Jon Favreau. So first of all, on behalf of USAID recipients, thank you for your service in getting those grants probably reinstated, even if you were definitely failing the offline challenge this week. But second of all, how exactly did you end up with the job of Elon Musk chief online antagonist and volunteer grant checker?
Yeah, I don't know because, look, everyone's tweeting at Elon all the time, and he is posting most hours and minutes of the day.
Yes.
So there's a good chance he's responding to a lot of people.
Right.
I think I've gone back and forth on this. First of all, he called me Dollar Store Jon Favreau, which legalized comedy.
Yeah. That's fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think that's because the other Jon Favreau, actor, director.
Sure.
Iron Man, director.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
I believe that Elon thinks that Tony Stark is based on him.
He said this
and there
many
may be
times.
some
Yeah.
there may be some truth to it. I actually don't
There's
know.
a little bit, yeah.
So I think he very much likes the other Jon Favreau, probably because of Tony Stark,
Right.
which is a much better version of Elon Musk
Hard to have a worse version.
than Elon Musk. I also I've met Elon Musk before, like way back when.
Really?
Yeah, way back when, right when I left the White House.
Okay.
Tom and I started a speech writing firm,
Right.
Small little speech writing firm, and our other business partner introduced us to Elon because he had said he needed some communications help.
Oh, okay.
Didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
He wanted to hire someone.
Yeah.
Um,
Talk about the road not taken.
we could, yeah, I was gonna say this is when he was like normal and like Democrats liked him.
No, there was a time.
But I would say
yeah.
our meeting with him was
Really?
I'm not
Weird guy.
Weird guy.
Okay.
I'm not totally surprised he ended up like this. Let's just say that for the
Really?
meeting.
Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't see it coming.
And well, at the time it was very, and I think a lot of people who knew Elon in the before times would say this too.
Right.
It's very like, well, he's a little awkward. He's a little off.
Sure.
He's maybe a little dickish.
I would say he's still a little awkward and off.
Right. But but it was always like, well, but he's a genius and he's doing this with SpaceX.
right.
He's building rockets. He's doing cars. And it was
Right.
kind of that vibe.
Right.
But very not really looking at you, sort of looking the other way, and
Okay.
just not a So
Something strange going
he
on.
may remember me. We have some mutual friends,
Right.
so I think he just in that world might. So
Okay.
he might actually know who I am.
So that for whatever reason, kind of you're in his brain. Although something that I think is telling here is that he has blocked and unblocked you a couple of times.
Yeah,
on
that
Twitter,
was
right?
so. That was the most recent time before his Trump turn that there was some kind of indirect interaction.
Right.
Was when he was one of the CEOs going to the White House in the first Trump term. And
Yeah.
it was right when Trump pulled out of Paris Climate Accord.
Right.
And remember, a bunch of the CEOs said they weren't coming,
Right.
and Elon was still going to go. And I tweeted something like, what the fuck? Because at that point,
Right.
I know it sounds weird. It sounds quaint now, but Elon Musk, the Tesla guy who cares about global warming, going to the
You
Trump
would
White
think,
House, I was
right.
like, this is fucking real.
Yeah.
And he got so mad that he blocked me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
then I reached out to the mutual friend that we both have, someone who had worked for him for a while,
Right.
doesn't anymore. And he
Good
was
for
like,
them.
he's like, you know what? Now he's pulling out. He's not going to the White House. And then he unblocked me like another
Wow.
day because he's like, this is the last straw for him with Trump. He's done. He's done.
Okay.
The Paris Climate Accord thing is done.
I mean, that feels telling because, like, who else does he block and unblock constantly? His ex-wives. And I'm not saying that I think you're one of his ex-wives in his brain. I don't think he's got you that confused. But what do we know about Elon Musk? Incredibly insecure, like incredibly sensitive about his relationships with people. So the fact that he is like angry at you, but also wants your attention, like clearly you're somehow in his brain.
I think he also has some leftover affection for the Obama era and people who were involved with the Obama era because he was like an Obama supporter Democrat and now thinks that it was he basically thinks that the break between Obama and afterwards was where like the Democratic Party went wrong.
Oh,
so I think now he says all kinds of horrible things about Obama,
He does,
right?
yeah.
Like, but I think there's still
somewhere in the swirl of his brain. So
anyway.
One thing that I'm kind of curious about, because you are like beyond your whatever your personal relationship is with him, which sounds incredibly complicated. You are one of the very, very few people who is not a Silicon Valley or MAGA insider who he responds to in any given way. That like it does seem like he at least is trying to make a show of reinstating this program because you tweeted at him. But I'm kind of curious, like how you were thinking about navigating this new, very high stakes relationship in your life.
Yeah, it was very interesting because when I tweeted the CNN story about the plant in Georgia that makes the peanut paste,
right?
The contracts were canceled,
right?
Just in case people were not following this, and we already spent $10 million in the contracts. The government did. Made the peanut paste.
Right.
Told the contract was canceled. Couldn't send it out because it had USAID on it.
Right.
And so I saw the CNN story. It made me mad. And I was on my way to dinner Saturday night, and I tweeted like, Elon could end up killing kids, and we didn't even like save any money here.
Right.
I very purposely didn't even tag Elon in my tweet because I was like, I don't want to get into a whole thing.
Right.
I didn't. I was like,
he will respond, as we've learned.
I get home late Saturday night, and then there's the response. And
nobody texts you when that happens?
No.
Nobody's like, the unelected supreme leader of America is in your mentions again?
This is Twitter these days, though, right? It's like Saturday from 7 p.m. when we went out till midnight when we came home.
Right.
Before, I'm stretching it. Let's be honest, we were home by 10:30.
Good for you.
No one's on Twitter that time of night.
Yeah.
So I see it. I was like, I'm not going to respond tonight. Go to bed. Wake up the next day. And but I did. What went through my head was like, okay. I could respond to him calling me an imbecilic propagandist, dollar store Jon Favreau, by just being like, you're a fucking dick who lies and is blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I was like, actually, like, I think I want people to understand that this contract is not like typical government spending that even if you don't like USAID, like you should realize that this is just wasteful and we're just like taking food from starving children, that we've already paid for. Right. So I was like, maybe it's just going to be better to be more constructive and make a little joke about it and see what happens. Right. And then, then it sort of went from there. But it's weird because then he writes back and he was like, actually, you're Kmart, Jon Favreau, and I'm not promoting you yet. And he was like, and he was still nasty to me, but not as nasty as the first one. Right. But it's interesting because then you start thinking like, well, I don't want to get into something with him where now we're talking and we're cool,
right. Which is because what he wants.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a weird figuring out like how to respond in a way that is like tough and firm, but not like so dickish that he just says like, fuck you and ignores you.
Well, this is kind of what I have been thinking about where like on the one hand, obviously it's amazing that you found one of like 3 avenues that exist to get these programs potentially turned back on. Like, as we said, even Republican members of Congress haven't figured out how to do that. And like a lot of kids who are at risk of starvation might not starve now. And like, that's pretty good. But on the other hand, what Elon is doing, like intervening to save select programs if people lobby him personally is just like the most standard tin pot dictator trick that exists where you
Trump does it too.
Trump does it too. It's like, it's literally, there's even an expression about it in Russia that goes back to like Tsarist days because you force everyone to court you personally and treat you as the ultimate authority in a way that legitimizes your authority. And then you get to pose as the good guy because you saved one program instead of the 99 that you killed. And it's like, how do you balance that?
I noticed this recently with Elon, with someone who has much more power than I do, Susan Collins, senator from Maine. I read a story that she's been texting with Elon now, and because she had been criticizing him, and then when the reporters asked, "Well, what are you texting about? How's it going?" and then she just sort of was like, "Well, I'm not." because this is we'll work behind the scenes and figure out something, and like who knows what kind of bone he's going to throw to her.
Right.
But this is how this happens. And there's so much of it is just it's hard to know what he's telling the truth about and what he's lying about because he lies all the time.
Of course.
And he was like, "You're not the one who turned on the contracts. I turned on the contracts before, and they were already going to go through. And it wasn't you or the legacy media or and like who knows? Is that right? Is that wrong? I don't think it's right, but who knows?
Right.
You know.
Well, I would say we are early enough in this experiment of unconstitutional Elon Musk supreme leadership that I would say like pull whatever lever you can.
Yeah.
If we get past the 8-year mark of the Elon Musk administration, it might be time to reconsider. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, don't want Kash Patel showing up at my door. He also went on Rogan, Joe Rogan. Have you heard of Joe Rogan?
I've heard of Joe Rogan. Yeah. Our other unelected supreme leader.
And it went on forever, as most of those conversations do. Yes. But there's one clip I thought would be worth talking about. Let's listen.
It's kind of weird if you talk to somebody who gets all their information from like what I call legacy media, they're living in a different world.
Yeah.
Than if they say are listening to, your podcast or getting news from X or, just if it's kind of wild. Like
it is very wild.
Like you talked, it's like they're living in an alternate reality.
Oh, there's a lot of people that I talk to that I have to go, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
So I think what's fascinating about that is it is like a just mirror image.
It is
of what we're all talking about.
I know, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, and it really gets you like, oh, they think we're the ones in an alternate reality, and we think they're the ones in an alternate reality, and like. I think maybe they genuinely believe that.
I started to think that, and I started to think like, oh, I guess we're both just on like opposite sides of this mirror.
Yeah.
But then I thought about like, okay, well, a lot of their discussion was Joe Rogan saying like, I can't believe they're accusing you of being a Nazi, and that's so crazy. And it's like, okay, we know why they're doing that. It's because he gave a Nazi salute. It's because he talks all the time to Nazis on Twitter and amplifies them, and then he spoke to the German far-right party and dropped Nazi dog whistles. Like, this is not a mystery, and you have to work to admit that information.
What he'd probably say is like, everyone keeps saying that this German far-right party is a Nazi party, but that's just part of the legacy media. And I think they're just saying that because they're tough on mass migration and immigration, and that's what we need right now. Like, I think there's a justification for fucking everything.
Of course, sure.
But it's funny, like in that same interview, Rogan starts going on about how CNN was the only network that aired the Butler rally, where Trump was, where the attempted assassination. Right. Isn't that weird? Why would that be? Did they maybe they had?
I know.
And it's like, first of all, no, everyone aired the Butler rally.
Right.
And
is it true, really?
Yes. And he's like, and it's very weird that there was no other Trump rallies that they aired. And I'm like, no, it was the middle of the campaign.
Yeah.
Rallies were being aired all over the place.
This is what I mean. There's clearly some cynical level of construction going on. And look, I'm not a big Joe Rogan fan. I know that's going to be surprising to people, but I could only ever get so mad at him, even with the anti-vax stuff, because his whole thing is that he's the goofy meathead podcaster. And so it's like, yeah, if you listen to a clip from the goofy meathead podcast, that's what they're going to be doing and talking about. And it's like, you're setting yourself up for failure if you expect anything else other than just goofy meathead stuff. But this moment feels really different to me. This interview feels different because we are in the middle of, again, an arguably unprecedented constitutional crisis in this country that Elon Musk is directly driving. The constitutional order has been kind of usurped by this guy who is infiltrating Americans' IRS and medical data in huge numbers, who's shutting down major parts of, for example, the FAA, which keeps the skies safe. Whatever you think of USAID, maybe you're even curious about that. And is totally opaque and unsupervised because all the IGs got fired and he will not talk to anybody except for Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has him in the chair.
Yeah.
The only person who can get him in the chair. He's there for 17 hours. He can ask for whatever he wants. This is a really important opportunity. Even if you agree with Trump about 99% of things, as I think Joe Rogan does, you don't want to try to get some information from him. You don't want to challenge him a little bit. But what does Rogan do with his big moment? He sympathizes with him because isn't it so tragic that people call you a Nazi on Twitter?
And I think that is because he has Joe Rogan has been so radicalized. He is so genuinely bought into this worldview that the questions you or I or any mainstream journalist, even any right-leaning mainstream journalist
Right.
would ask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Joe Rogan even thinks to ask.
Yeah.
You know, because he was like, he's already decided
Mm-hmm.
that Doge is the greatest thing ever, and that of course the government is wasteful, and Social Security is probably a Ponzi scheme, and there probably is something up to Trump's assassination attempt, and the Epstein files are somewhere.
Okay, right. Yeah. Right. I agree with that. I think there's also just a real element of spinelessness here. I really think the defining feature of the party right now, from Rogan to Susan Collins, is just spinelessness.
Yeah, spinelessness that I think continues through justifications, some of which you believe and some of which you maybe don't believe, but you need a justification.
Right. I think a lot of them don't, because a lot of them will then say off the record or,
Yes,
indirectly and informally to people in the administration, this is crazy, we're going too far.
Yeah.
Don't have any meetings with constituents because everybody is so angry with us.
Yeah.
I think they know they're surrendering.
Yeah, certainly the Republican politicians.
Yes.
So we mentioned this briefly. The Democratic reaction to Trump's speech was varied. Congressman Al Green of Texas was forcibly removed for interrupting Trump. Some Democrats walked out of the speech at various points. There were a few signs here and there that said false, accused Elon Musk of stealing, a couple other ones I missed.
Sure.
And Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan gave a very normal Democratic response speech. We talked about this a bit on PSA. I think overall, the response and how varied it was is like emblematic of the larger challenge that Democrats are wrestling with, which is how to mount an effective opposition to Trump when we have very, very little power, and Trump is breaking the law and acting like a dictator.
Right.
And to that end, you shared a story in Slack this week about the economic blackout that was organized for last Friday, February 28th. Those of you listening, if you didn't hear about it, this is part of the issue here.
If you didn't hear about it, you were in the minority.
Right.
It was everywhere. It was a bunch of celebrities shared it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was very big.
I didn't see it that much. That's so funny. I heard about it, but I did not. It was not everywhere.
I didn't know how big it was until I was reading articles about all the big, like Stephen King and.
Okay. So the boycott, which spread mostly on social media with a graphic of a rabbit and the caption, "Don't buy stuff." I don't understand the rabbit. Called for consumers to abstain from shopping at Amazon, Walmart, Target, fast food restaurants, and gas stations, and encouraged consumers to use cash and shop at small businesses. According to NPR, calls for a blackout originated on Instagram with John Schwartz, a Chicago-based meditation teacher and founder of the fledgling organization People's Union USA. When you shared the story, you noted that it reminded you a lot of Kony 2012.
Kony 2012.
Care to explain?
Okay. Internet OGs will remember this. So in 2012, a not very successful NGO based in Uganda that was mostly staffed by these kind of like dreamy white 20-something Americans put out this video called Kony 2012. And ostensibly the purpose of this video was to help people in Uganda by raising awareness about this very bad warlord, a guy named Joseph Kony, who was terrorizing parts of the country. But really, the video was 30 minutes of these like feel-good montages about how white college kids should put up Kony 2012 banners on their campuses and share especially Kony 2012 branded social media content, and that posting online in America would somehow defeat Joseph Kony in Uganda by raising awareness.
And it did not.
It did not, but it was money. Well, it depends on what you think the goal of the video was. It was one of the most successful viral videos of all time, over 100 million views just on YouTube, and like, according to Facebook, 2 or 3 times that, but Facebook lies about their video views. But it established this model of online slacktivism that I think we are all very familiar with now, that tells you that posting online both makes you very brave and heroic and makes you kind of the center and protagonist of the story, and that it will solve huge societal problems when, of course, it never does.
Yeah. So here's my thing about this one, having looked into it. I think this is different than the typical slacktivism. Like, this is, the black squares around BLM, right?
Yeah.
There's just I think it's different because this was organizing something in real life.
That's
online,
true.
right?
Or at least trying to.
Or at least trying to. Much like the real organization around George Floyd was the people on the streets, right? Which was probably organized online as well. But
But it was also involved with a grassroots organization that was doing real outreach.
Yes. This, I think the challenge here is, as I see it, I'm not clear and have not been clear how the economic boycott of those stores, like what the purpose is or what effect that will have on the broader polity.
Yeah, how you get for save your shopping for Saturday to Trump leaves office in disgrace.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure how that works.
Right.
But I do sympathize with like, and this is why I brought up all the Democrats, like everyone is trying to figure out
what to do. Yeah.
And I think some people are thinking about where we are as this is normal politics. And most voters are still like, Trump still has a 47, 48, 49, 50% approval rating.
Yeah.
So half the country is like, this is fine.
Right. Yeah.
And we all are, kind of singed from going through an election where everyone was like, dictator on day one, end of democracy. And then most of the country's like, cost inflation. Right. Or at least half the country. A little less than half the country. I know that a bunch of people didn't vote and we're not counting them, but half the electorate.
Sure. Yeah.
And so like I sympathize with trying to figure out what to do. It's just the hard truth is like we don't have much power right now.
Right.
And in terms of getting these people out of office and ending their reign, we have to look at elections.
Right.
There is no other right. There's no other avenue right now.
Right.
There's never going to be an impeachment after everything we just talked about with the Republican Party.
Right.
The courts are not going to save us. The Supreme Court just finally issued a ruling in favor of the plaintiffs who said they're still not paying the USAID contracts.
Right.
It was 5-4.
Yeah.
So it was pretty narrow.
I know.
Thanks to
It's
John
concerning.
Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett.
Right.
Even Brett Kavanaugh sided with the crazies.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the lower stakes cases.
And that's one of the lower stakes. Yeah, that's not anything about the who does the administration get to fire. That's just about like power of the purse.
Right.
So when you're thinking all that, you're like, okay, there's normal politics, which is we have elections, we got to get him out of office. But clearly, we're not operating in a normal political environment because he's acting like a dictator and he's breaking the law.
Right.
So then, how do you oppose that? And what does that look like?
Right.
And does that look like mass mobilization in the streets?
Yeah.
Okay, but then what? Then to what end? It's I think it's really hard, and so I have a lot more empathy for everyone trying to figure it out, and that goes from like people organizing an economic boycott to more moderate Democrats being like, "This is normal politics." Like I don't know that either is right.
No one has the magic. Yeah,
but I think everyone's like grasping towards something.
Right.
I don't know. What do you?
So to start with the boycott and then to bring it around to this bigger question, because I think this is the big one that is leading people to engage with this boycott. Like obviously, we are not looking to disparage people who participated in this because it comes from a good impulse, which is trying to find a way to fight back. That's good. That's noble. I do worry about this tendency when activism happens via social media, and we'll talk about why that's happening as opposed to working through institutions, is that it makes it very easy for hucksters or grifters, the guy who organized the boycott is like not a good guy, to capture that sentiment for their own purposes, whether that's like selling merch, t-shirts, or just doing engagement farming, which is often what a lot of this is, or to get captured by people who do mean well and do want to move that in a good direction, but they might just not have the background or experience to know what is or is not going to be effective. Because yes, if you participated in this boycott because you want to do something, then like sincerely good on you. But I think we'd all agree the primary goal of political action, especially when the stakes are this high, is not to feel good about whether your motivations were correct. It's to make a difference. And this did not make a difference. And I think it is important to understand why that is. I think your point that you were making, I think, is a really good one, that there's a big disconnect. There's a lot of people who want to fight back against this. There's moderate Democrats, there's left-wing Democrats, people in the streets, there's institutions. It's not working together. I think what we are seeing is symptomatic of the fact that, yes, a lot of people are hungry for resistance, but they're not in a place where they feel like they have institutions or trust institutions, or even want institutions to rally behind to do that for them, which leads them to more informal outlets like I saw viral Instagram, because there's not a level of trust in things like, say, the opposition party. And part of that is that Democrats are unpopular right now, just suffered a very significant loss. That's not surprising. Part of it is our era. People do not like institutions. They don't trust institutions. They don't want to rely on them. I was just joking with a friend who works on poverty outreach programs, actually some of the USAID funded programs, about how we're in this funny place where you're not supposed to call it development work anymore, or God forbid philanthropy or charity. You're supposed to call it mutual aid. And it's kind of like, look, it's fine. Call it whatever you want. It's funny because it's not mutual. Right. It's not supposed to be mutual. That's not the idea.
Like, I don't think that's going to do it.
No.
I don't think the name change is going to do it.
Right. But it's like, I think it is symptomatic of the prevailing mood right now is that anything that comes from a big institution, even a poverty NGO, is bad. And people only want things that feel like they are decentralized and bottom up. And I get that. But if you want to fight something as big as the federal government and this united right-wing movement that has seized control of so much of it, the only thing that is going to be big enough to meet that challenge and to take it on is going to be a national political party. It's the only thing that has the power to field lawyers, to fight things in courts, to coordinate across state and local governments, which is really important to, and yes, organize tens of millions of people. And I'm not saying that means you need to like Democrats and like everything that the party leadership is doing. I'm saying that if you want to actually fight this, the road to do it goes through something involving the Democratic Party. Now, if you don't like what the institution is doing, get involved and change it.
Right. And I think it goes on for both sides too, right? It goes for the people in the Democratic Party institution. Like I have not been preaching the need for a big tent party for the last several years because I want everyone to like hold hands, kumbaya, get along, or like, you know, the people who have one view, they need to moderate their views, or the other people need to be more progressive. Like it's not because of that. It's because just from a math perspective and a perspective of like what our political institution and structure is, not what we wish it would be. Like this is the only way is to like build an alliance that is very broad, that goes from the far left to the center right, because that is the only thing that is going to give us a chance to actually oppose this movement. And which is also why I'm trying to give everyone a little more leeway to do things that are maybe a little silly, maybe a little ineffective, maybe not quite on it, because it's like we're all still groping around for stuff. But I do think, you know, when I talked to Stephen Levitsky on this podcast a couple weeks ago, and the one sign of who's looking for some hope, which is tough when you're talking to the democracy's dying.
Yeah, the political scientists are not always the guys for that.
He was like, look, in countries where the autocrat or dictator is very popular, not like fake polls, but legitimately popular, very hard to dislodge. In the countries that have dislodged autocrats and dictators, they weren't that popular. And Trump is sitting, hovering around 50% right now. And the Republican Party is still not super popular, though more popular than the Democratic Party right now. And so all I can think of, and this is not by any means an ultimate solution, and there's going to be other things, but right now what I can think about is like our job is to make sure that people who either are okay with Trump or like Trump, not the fans we're never going to get, but people who are like willing to give him a chance, which by the way, those are the people that won him the election, not the people who love him, but the people who are willing to give him a chance, to like convince them that actually this is bad, and to make them aware of what's going on in the government and what's going on with their tax dollars and the programs they want to cut and everything like that. And I think making sure that in your own life, you are telling people who don't necessarily pay attention to politics about everything that's going on, using your own platforms to share stories, and not, like you said, maybe not memes, but actual stories of what's going on. That's the best I got for right now. And I do think that's the beginning of something.
And to your point about the big tent, it is really essential that they not hate the Democrats more than they hate Trump. It doesn't mean that the Democratic Party has to represent, center-right Republicans now. I think that's not what we're saying. But for better or for worse, it's a two-party system that we have. And that's just because of the way our elections are designed. It's not even a product of the Democratic and Republican parties. It's just a fact of nature. And it does mean that is the institution that has to work through it. And I understand why everyone is feeling this like anti-institution, anti-incumbent mood. And I get the discomfort with, the party is too far left, it's too far right. I don't like that it's speaking to these people who I don't like and don't agree with. There are real disagreements within it. But, this is a crisis.
Yep. Offline is brought to you by Lumen. Did you know that when your metabolism is working properly, you will feel the benefits in literally every aspect of your life? Lumen is a valuable tool that gives you insights to create a healthy metabolism for your body. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Lumen is all the rage here at Crooked. There's a couple of the staffs using it. You're blowing into it. Suddenly you get you get all your numbers.
Yeah, you get your numbies.
And they can give you a nutrition plan. They can tell you how much fat or carbs you're burning. It's great. It's great. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does. Optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, and more. Take the next step to improving your health. Go to lumen.me/offline to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/offline for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Offline is brought to you by Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I certainly don't bounce back the next day like I used to.
No.
And so you have to make a choice. You either have a great night or you have a great next day. Until I found pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I was out last weekend. I forgot it.
Oh, no.
Had a friend bring an extra. That's how important it was. Someone else at the table had never heard of it before. She was like, "What are you doing with that thing? What are you?" And I told her all about it, and she's like, "Seriously? This works? Or is this just like something you guys sell on the pod?" It's like, no, it works.
It happens to be both.
It happens to be both, and it worked. And it worked.
And it worked.
This college hoop season, don't let anything sideline your celebrations.
Hoops.
Grab pre-alcohol before you go out and be ready to cheer on your team all day and all night long. Go to zbiotics.com/offline to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use offline at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/offline and use the code offline at checkout for 15% off. All right, it's time to check back in on the one segment keeping us sane, the offline challenge. This last week, we tried a simple change that you, Max, claimed worked like near witchcraft.
It's changed my life.
Keeping the phone out of the bedroom. You've been doing this for a while. Can you remind everyone why you swear by this?
So I won't repeat my whole spiel except to say I started doing this in December out of total desperation to save the last working bits of my brain, and also because Julia finally successly bullied me into it.
Mm-hmm.
It took her a few months of lobbying, and that she bullies me, I bully you. That's the beautiful circle of life we have. And I cannot overstate how beneficial this has been for me. I sleep significantly better. I fall asleep more easily. I don't wake up as much in the night. I don't find myself reaching for my phone. I feel better when I wake up in the morning. I feel focused, much more focused the whole next day. I never feel foggy the way that I used to all the time. And I have an easier time kind of, regulating what I'm thinking about and what I'm emotionally engaged in and not engaged in throughout the day. It's great. I swear by it.
So I'll give you my experience with it.
Please.
Is that it didn't work well.
Oh no! I'm so sorry to hear that.
It was one of those things where I like got up more, and here's why.
Okay.
It's just because of the kids.
Sure.
And because of the the alarms on the phone for the house, and it's just like a lot of.
I see.
So, but what I think would work, because
Okay.
like last night, because I got home late and I saw that Charlie was like maybe stirring and Emily was asleep, so I didn't want her to wake. So I'm like, you know what? And I didn't go. I went to bed. I didn't pick up my phone and like scroll through the phone.
Okay.
Which is
Okay.
great.
That's
I just
great.
left it there.
Yeah.
I was like, I think this would work for me if I didn't put it downstairs or in another room, but just like across the bedroom.
That's great.
Because
that's huge.
I want the sounds for the kids,
I see.
or for a call, or for anything else that I can, or if I need it in the middle of the night, I could just like run across the bedroom,
Right.
Just because whatever, and
Right.
that would make me feel
I
more
hear that.
secure,
Right.
And then I wouldn't also scroll, because what
Yes.
I think it definitely works for your doom scrolling, you're texting, you're doing whatever. I think that's bad,
Yeah.
But just the phone, there's too much on the phone now for me to have it somewhere else.
I get that, and I agree that having it in the other side of the room is huge, because I think it's just that having it within arm's reach. I don't know if you do this, but when I had it there, as I did for years, would find myself constantly and automatically, if I started to get stressed, reach for the phone.
Yes, it's almost like a security blanket.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so this is the final week of the offline challenge.
Yes.
Phone pickups this week?
So I started at about 90, went down to the 60s, and now I've been hovering for another week at 70.
I started at 276, went down to 201, 200.
Yep.
Last week was 257, not a great week.
It's a tough week.
I'm back at 206.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you cut like almost a third.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I'm in the
happy
that's
for
fine.
you.
Yeah, it's not bad.
How are you feeling?
I feel good.
Okay.
I feel good. I mean, look, I think that the best thing we did,
Uh-huh.
I think, is the reading. The
Yes.
reading and the walking.
Yeah.
Those are two things that I am going to, and the phone across the room, which is a hybrid.
Right.
But the reading and the walking, I am keeping.
That's great.
And like just the other night, I read again, even though that wasn't the challenge. I put my phone in the other room where it was going to be for the whole night, and just had the book, like hard copy book, and it was lovely. And the other, like every day almost, I've been taking a walk to Starbucks.
You really still?
From the office, yeah.
that's
and
great.
Just not listening to anything and just like enjoying my walk.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So would you encourage listeners to adopt the reading and the walking?
100%.
I think that if you were to only do one thing, I would say it's definitely phone in the other room. Or if you can't do that, phone on the other side of the room. Like if you do nothing else. But I would say that the like super upgraded platinum Amex Black Card version of this is exactly what you arrived at the end of my workday. And I've been trying to do this since we started this. End of the workday, whenever that is, when you get to the end of having to be, on your phone and email and the news, like go for a walk, no headphones, put your phone in your back pocket so you're not looking at it. Come back, phone goes away, or at least as away as you're able to, or just I try to give myself an embargo on email, an embargo on social apps, anything with news on it, and then read for 20, 30 minutes before bed. And I think what that does for me, kind of bookending my evening with those two things, really just downshifts my brain and creates this block of the day where I kind of know and I can feel my body almost anticipating it. I'm going to like really downscale. I'm really not going to be as stressed. I'm going to feel like I'm kind of almost living in a different world than I do in the rest of the day, when I can just feel much more like comfortable and happier and more relaxed in a way that I really find echoes out across my entire day. Like it's not just I have a few hours that are a lot nicer now. I feel much better every other time. It's kind of like a nice version of Severance for yourself. Like you're kind of doing Severance in the evening, but for like feeling better.
And I can tell you why, like I feel the difference, because last night, we're recording this Wednesday. Last night was State of the Union. We were all at the office late.
Right.
I didn't get home till 10:30,
right?
Which for me is I've been like asleep an hour by then, and so I was late, and that was on the phone recording the pod, lots of Twitter, everything you have to do for State of the Union night.
You feel different.
And I feel worse today.
Yeah,
I felt like I had no break between my day and bed.
Yep.
There was no severance. And I woke up today and I just felt sort of like tired and unfocused. And it's just, it's a real difference.
That is, whenever we've done these, or I've done a version of this for myself, it's the day when I lapse, when I really realize how effective it's been.
It says here that there's a winner for this and that Emma has an envelope.
Oh, okay. I feel like I know who's going to win.
Oh.
Congratulations,
this is for me?
John.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
We're very proud of you.
And the winner is Max.
Oh, sorry. For people who are listening,
that.
Emma handed the old iPhone clown case to John, which I assumed was the trophy, but it actually contained an envelope. This is a real Moonlight situation here. Real La La Land.
It is. We asked the Friends of the Pod Discord who did better over the course of the challenge. Max won 74% of the votes. John won 26%.
Okay, well, thank you to the Maxinistas as always.
Discord community, always talking you up to people here on the pod, but now I know.
I wonder if it's because you politely sparred with them a bit about Blue Sky.
You know what? You win, and you gave us a lot of these challenges. So you know what? You get the prize. All right, some quick housekeeping. Exciting news from our book imprint, Crooked Media Reads. Woodworking is the brand new novel by Yellow Jackets writer and culture commentator Emily St. James,
and my pal.
And you know, oh, that's right. And it's out now wherever you get your books. Woodworking is an unforgettable, heartwarming debut following a trans high school teacher from a small town in South Dakota who befriends the only other trans woman she knows, one of her students. The 5-star Goodreads reviews are already pouring in, and Woodworking is featured on them and AV Club's most anticipated books of 2025 lists. Publishers Weekly says St. James enthralls with her description of what it's like to be trans in a conservative and insular community and the courage it takes for people to openly be themselves. It is a quick, delightful read, more relevant than ever. You're going to love it.
Lovely.
Everyone at Crooked loves it. Get your copy of Woodworking right now at crooked.com/books.